What is up, everybody? My name is Eric Evans. I am the host. This is Pump the Brakes, episode 1. I can't express how excited I am to finally get started on this venture. We got a lot of big things planned in the upcoming weeks. A lot of big things planned. Some stuff I can say now, some stuff I can't. Our guest list lined up is pretty good. Today, I have one of my best friends on the show. He is an Ohio State, not a homer. He's very reasonable and knowledgeable about what he says, but he is a fan, and what better time to bring him on than after a huge Cleveland Browns win. Ohio State playing in the national championship tonight. I really don't know what to say. This is the first time I've ever hosted a show. I don't know what to expect. I'm probably going to stutter over a couple words. I'm going to stumble over a lot of things, but I don't give a damn, and I'm just ready to get started. We're going to preview the national championship game tonight, obviously. We're going to recap some of the NFL games. Rich has been talking about a playoff format that should be put in in place for college football, and we're just ready to get started. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends at Backroad Apparel. It is the premier clothing brand choice for any outdoor enthusiast. Whether you chase the migration, live at full draw, or just enjoy going to camp to crack cold ones with family and friends, Backroads has a design that fits your lifestyle. Represent the brand that prides themselves on being authentic and original. Head over to backroadsapparel.com and grab your gear today. Be sure to use promo code PTB during checkout to receive 10% off your entire purchase. Again, that's promo code PTB at checkout to receive 10% off your entire order. And again, that's backroadsapparel.com. All right. So here we are, Rich. Welcome to the show. You are the first guest on Pump the Brakes.
I'm flattered.
Yeah, flattered. I'm pretty sure you're not as nervous as I am, but are you ready for the game tonight?
Yeah, I don't know what you're nervous about. This is just our weekly conversation that we've had 1,000 times. It's the same stuff.
I know. I feel like I just set the bar so high for myself, so I don't really know I don't know what to do with my hands.
I feel like maybe I'll be setting it low, so it'll be easy to get some better content from here. So hopefully hopefully we can get some interesting stuff. But man, there's so much. What a great day to do it, because there's just so much interesting stuff to talk about. At least for me, like you said. So yeah, thank you for having me on the show. When you asked me to be the first guest, I was seriously flattered in your world, with your buddies, with the people you know, and the stuff you know. I'm sure the show is going to be awesome, and I'm happy to be guest number 1, episode number 1.
Yeah, well, let's hope so. So this was obviously arguably the best weekend of football. First round of the NFL playoffs. We had 3 games Saturday, 3 games Sunday, national championship tonight. Did you have any initial thoughts, or did anything specifically stand out to you over the weekend in the NFL?
I mean, as a Browns fan, it's been hard to really take, a big bite of the NFL in the recent years. Playing fantasy football and things keeps you up on stuff. It just seemed kind of, as a big picture, as kind of underwhelming. Wasn't super impressed. And I know, we're in the playoffs now, and all that matters is winning. This isn't college. There's no style points. It's win and move on. I was kind of underwhelmed by a lot of the games as a big picture.
Yeah, no, I agree. The weekend started off hot. The Colts and the Bills game was very good, very entertaining. Buffalo, thank goodness how the refs missed that fumble call in the last drive of the game. The whole point of having instant replay is to get every call right, or more calls right than it seems that they do. And how they continue to mess this up is mind blowing. But really, after that first game, like you said, it was a pretty underwhelming weekend until my 100% 10-star lock of the century got their teeth kicked in. I blinked and I was all over the Steelers. And not even that I think they're significantly better than the Cleveland Browns, but just the COVID situation, no Kevin Stefanski there calling the games. Like the deck just continues to get stacked against Cleveland Browns. Like it's called that you're just Cleveland Browning it. That's what it is. And I just thought there was no way. I counted them out mainly for that purpose. And I blinked and it was 28-0. And I know we talked about this earlier. If I told you at the end of the first quarter that game is 28-0, you're like, oh yeah, Pittsburgh's winning. Here we go.
Yeah, sounds about right.
And it just was not that at all. And that's my biggest standout too. I lost a couple dollars on that game. I thought there was just 0% chance that Pittsburgh was going to lose that game, but they've proved to be, they were the biggest frauds in the history of the NFL to start out 11-0. And even when people were questioning that when they were 11-0, they're like, oh, well, they haven't beat anybody. And I'm just like, yeah, but it's Roethlisberger. It's that offense. They're 11-0. It's Mike Tomlin. Like, they're fine. And they were the furthest thing from fine.
So what does that make them then over the end stretch then? They're
1-6.
Yeah, I mean, and they didn't. I mean, they
even the Week 17 game, like they lost by 2 points to a Cleveland Browns team that needed to win that game, and they started Mason Rudolph and sat half of their key players. So for them to only lose by 2 points there, plus the COVID situation with Cleveland, I just thought I gave the Browns absolutely zero chance.
Yeah, I mean, I wish you could see my, and I'm a little behind the times because I'm a little bit older, but I wish you could see my Facebook thread of the comments going on. You know, there's all these memes of, you know, Browns are up 100-0, and they're all nail biters. Like, hold on, like, not comfortable yet. Comfortable yet. I mean, yeah, when they said and when they said 28 points is the most any team's ever scored in the first quarter of any playoff game in NFL history. You know, I know it's an old joke, but I thought the Browns were going to just be the old hold my beer. Watch, we'll show you how to screw this one up too. And I don't think that game was even as close as anybody thought. I mean, like, come on, when you're up 28-0, you're just gonna, all right, let's get to the end of this thing. Let's keep it within, you know, at least 2 scores, 3 scores, all the way down the stretch, and just grind this thing out and get the win. And you know, it's so funny because you and I talk year in and year out about coaching changes, quarterback changes, and this is the first time I ever remember, like, all I wanted to end the season was at least we're not rebuilding. We know who our coach is. We know who our quarterback is, with zero question mark on that. You know, not okay, Baker's our quarterback. Let's give him a few games next year. No, this team at least has some stability moving forward. And the exciting part about that is, I'm sure you're 100% aware. I don't know if all your viewers are, of how the NFL does the schedule. So the Browns, they get to play a bunch of third-place teams again next year. Steelers have to play first-place teams all year. So, I mean, at least in the non-divisional games, and then the parity games, they play all first-place teams. The Browns get to play all third-place teams again next year. So it's pretty exciting. What do you think about?
Go ahead.
What do you think about? I mean, that looked like a farewell tour for Roethlisberger.
Yeah, after the game, he said he still has 1 year left on his contract and that he wants to be a part of that organization. But I was going to open the show with the team that has the biggest question marks heading into next season, but I decided to end. I'm going to end the show with that. But the state of Pennsylvania has a lot of questions, football related, going into next year. I don't think there's any doubt about it. Some people want Tomlin fired, and that is insane to me.
Insanity.
Yeah. So heading into this upcoming weekend, your Browns get the honors of traveling to Kansas City and taking on Patrick Mahomes. That is a tough prize to get after a beatdown of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So here you go. Here's Patrick Mahomes. Any thoughts heading into that game?
I think it's all house money now. Like you said, they were supposed to lose last night. Anything from here on out is a success. Minus Baker Mayfield getting decapitated and his head killing Stefanski on the sideline. I think we know who our quarterback and our coach is, and everything's house money from here. And nobody, even the announcers, the guys who are paid to be able to intelligently talk about football last night or watching the Browns games, saying the words out loud. I don't know how to describe what I'm watching right now. I don't know how to put this into words. So, you got a team of upstarts that are playing with as much energy as anybody. I don't think they're going to win. But crazier things happen. Home field advantage is almost zero in these playoffs. So typically you go into Kansas City, which is known as one of the loudest stadiums in the country, not next week. So, like I said, it's house money. Cleveland people are thrilled. There isn't a single team they would rather beat in the playoffs than the Steelers. I mean, that was an equivalent of a Super Bowl emotional injection for Cleveland people.
Exactly.
Everybody's happy, man, and it's been a long road for those people in Cleveland, a long, long, long road. And I told you earlier in the year when they played the Cowboys, I'm just happy to be watching a competitive football team. I don't even know what they're doing. It's just happy to watch a team who's actually playing football and is not an organization in disarray. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, like you said, outside of actually winning the Super Bowl, this was the biggest win that this franchise has had maybe ever. And, to build off of that next year, like now they're not the Browns anymore. Now that's an exciting franchise to go to. Like you have your quarterback, you have your head coach, you have the best running back duo in the game, save Odell's diva-ness. You got him, Landry, like that's a team you want to go play for. Now you're attracting people instead of people being like, no, I'm not going to go play for the Browns. So it's got to be very exciting to be a Cleveland Browns fan for once.
It is, man. It is. And again, we'll talk later, I know, about college recruiting and stuff, but Peoples-Jones is, for a number 3. I mean, are you kidding me? And then you look at the wide receivers, or the tight ends they have, Njoku and Higgins, and
Hooper, Austin Hooper.
Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. Yeah, and Hooper. Give me a break. It's ridiculous watching this.
Now, the game that I am most excited to watch next week is the Ravens and the Bills, which features 2 of my favorite quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm very happy that Lamar Jackson finally got his first playoff win because I think there's a lot of people, especially locally, that I know that think he's a fraud and his MVP season was a fluke and he's not nearly as good as I think that he actually is. And then Josh Allen, like people were almost writing this guy off coming into this season. Just, man, can't complete a deep pass, couldn't do this, couldn't do that. And when you give a quarterback, a young quarterback specifically, an elite weapon like Stephon Diggs, you can see how quickly you can grow when you have superb talent around him. What are your thoughts going into that game?
Well, it's funny because, like I said, you and I talk recruiting all the time. I told you about Diggs when he was in high school. And, he actually spurned the big programs and went to Maryland. And, he's just a different animal out there. I wasn't sold on the Bills until I watched a couple of their games late in the season, and they're for real. And their defense is for real. And that's another fan base that's had it rough, but not like Cleveland rough. Yeah, Josh Allen, I was ready to write off. At first, I wanted the Browns to draft him, hoping he was going to be their Carson Wentz.
Oh, boy.
Lamar Jackson is an anomaly. I really like him as a person. I think he's just an insane player. I was so happy when the Baltimore drafted him as a Browns fan because what a bust this guy's going to be. And that's not the case. He's he's a man playing a boys game when he gets in his zone. And if they can figure out how to play his type of football, his release is so quick. He's virtually unstoppable when you get him into space. I mean, he's a Mike Vick, Randy Moss kind of guy in space. It's insane to watch that guy. I don't think he's a fluke at all. And with Dobbins over there, it's like, and to piggyback on, it pisses you off because that's the Browns. And that organization has just run itself competitive year in and year out. And that was the Browns.
Right.
And that's the team that should have been in Cleveland this whole time. But yeah, when they drafted him, I was like, oh, great, good. You know, draft a bust, don't have a quarterback, and that's not the case. So I feel like if there's any defense that can stop him, it'll be Buffalo. But they're coming on as of late, and they're the opposite of the Steelers. You know, struggled early in the season, and then besides that first game against the Browns, struggled early in the season, and really have turned it on at the right time. So I like Buffalo in that game, but you can't count Lamar Jackson out at all. You just never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, I agree. So we went over the two AFC games. So you have Buffalo and Kansas City advancing.
Yeah.
And who do you think comes out of the AFC?
I mean, I haven't watched enough Chiefs games, but with their weapons and being the defending Super Bowl champs, if they can play with the energy that they did last year, I don't know. I don't know. Again, there's an old adage, and this isn't old football, but good defense can used to be able to beat good offense, and the NFL is filled with so many athletes that we've talked about this back to the Mike Vick days. We talked about this with Cam Newton. Like, you're not going to come in and redo the NFL. The NFL is going to catch up to these guys, but let me know. Give me a call when they catch up to Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Let me know when they've figured those guys out. But I'd never count either of those guys out.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's funny because obviously with what Lamar did last year, leading the league in touchdown passes, I'm pretty sure he was 6th in the NFL in rushing. Like, there was going to be regression. You can't be a top 5 running back and the number 1 quarterback in the city. Like, that wasn't going to happen. So of course all of the noise came in then, well, look, Lamar isn't as good. The league did catch up. And the way that they ended the season, that's one of the teams that nobody wanted to face. So I can't wait.
If you don't know any better, you think that guy can't throw, but man,
yeah,
he's playing backyard football. He can flick that thing out there quick. Thank you for talking me into taking him in my fantasy league last year too. That was pretty helpful.
You're welcome. Follow me for more advice. Yeah, and I did tell your wife Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf this year. So
yeah, DK Metcalf is another man among boys out there. I mean, goodness.
On the NFC side, speaking of Aaron Rodgers, who is, I've said this, I've gotten pushback on it. I'm going to look into the camera and I'm going to say, Aaron Rodgers is unanimously going to win the MVP. Nobody is close to what he did this year. Not Mahomes, not Derrick Henry, nobody. The FU tour that Aaron Rodgers went on this year when the Green Bay Packers drafted Jordan Love in the first round is the best thing that they could have done, because that guy at his best is better than anybody that has ever played in this league. I will die on that hill right now. And
you have to promise me that the next time or when we breach the topic of best ever versus greatest of all time conversation that you and I have all the time.
Right.
It's him and Peyton Manning for my money as the best people to ever play that position. Talent
and legacy, 2 totally different things.
Correct. But let's not get it started.
That's another podcast. You're right. So the Packers are hosting the Rams. They are 7-point favorites. My 10-star can't lose lock is 0-1, and whatever I lost allegedly on Sunday, I am going to double down on the Packers. I don't care if Goff plays. I don't care how good the Rams defense is. There's no way the Packers are losing that game.
No, I mean, Jared Goff's throwing a shot put out there right now. I don't even know. He doesn't know where that ball's going. I mean, it's
he just
absolutely
had
insane.
thumb surgery. I can't believe they even put him in the game. I know
Those throws. I mean, shoot, I'm so old now I can't throw a spiral, but I might have been more accurate than him in that game. And I don't see how they can. Aaron Rodgers is such a funny dude. Some people hate him, some people love his personality. But again, I like how you called it his FU tour. That dude is just an animal, and I don't know how they're. However, I will tell you that I was in Ohio visiting family when I had the Packers as my Super Bowl favorite, and I said I don't know how anybody's going to beat them this year, and that was the week they played the Bucs,
and they got destroyed. Of course, yeah. Preseason, I had Packers over Chiefs, so this is really no shock to me. I know it looks very chalky now, but I don't know how Green Bay loses. I'm telling you this. The quietest 48 touchdown passes in the history of the NFL. With 5 he's on another planet.
I took a year off of fantasy this year, so again, you want to talk about quietest 48? Yeah, that's right. But like I said, you did tell my wife to take him, so I was paying some attention. But I got the Packers for sure. Got the Packers big. I don't think it'll be that close.
I don't think so either. So if it is close, I might need to rent one of your rooms out again. And the last game of the weekend is the matchup of the ageless wonders, Tom Brady, Drew Brees. First time they've ever faced off in the playoffs, which should come as no shock as
right.
They've been in different conferences the whole time. In the Dome, Saints are 2-0 against the Bucs this year, 3-point favorites. What says you about that game?
The Bucs were and I don't want to make our local friends angry, but that was an ugly game. I mean, Godwin couldn't catch a ball to save his life in that game, and he's usually a sure thing. And the Bucs actually should have won that game by a lot more. I mean, the drop passes, the receivers letting down Tom Brady in that game was pretty disgusting to watch. That game should not have been that close. It's so hard to stop that Saints offense. It's so fun to watch with Hill coming in and not knowing what he's going to do, but then him getting that experience to actually throw the ball and play a legit quarterback position instead of just running a wildcat all the time. Now they got to keep him honest. And in that last playoff game, he had a deep ball and he had a receiver before he got hit throwing the ball. So they're gonna stretch you out with that too. So you can't stack the box on that wildcat. Michael Thomas is still the best possession receiver in the NFL. I mean, that guy is just an animal out there, and they've got some weapons. The Saints seem to have the Bucs number. I want to root for my friend's team to win. Previewing our conversation about greatest of all time versus best. Brady's the GOAT, and it's fun to see how much he can add to his legacy. Even just getting to another Super Bowl would be just remarkable. But I definitely think I'm going to go with the Saints in this game, but not nearly as sure as the Packers game.
Yeah, this is the game of the week that I'm most scared to pick. I don't know which way to go. Obviously, you mentioned earlier, like with the Chiefs, like home field advantage is kind of gone. And it's even harder to beat a team 3 times in a row than it is to, go on the road in the playoffs and win. Like to beat a team 3 times in a season, like that doesn't happen very often. So there's that going against the Saints, but Thomas is still really, really good. There's no doubt about it. Kamara is really, really good. Drew Brees in the playoffs is, really, really good at home. But it's Tom Brady in the playoffs. Like, how do you sit here and confidently say, like, yeah, I don't think that team's going to win. I can't bet against Brady. This is going to be another one of those really exciting matchups. Like, these are 2 legends at the position playing for a trip to the NFC Championship. Like, that's a big deal.
And then they get to play Rodgers too. So I mean, you're talking about 3 guys in the conversation as the best guys to ever suit up and play that position. And that's exciting. And I don't know who it's a farewell tour for. I think this is the end of Breeze. The writing's on the wall with him going. I think we'll definitely see Brady and Rodgers at least for another year. But it's what a good guy Breeze is too. So it's hard to root against him. I'd like to see any of those quarterbacks continue to win and see what they can add to their legacy.
Yep, that it should be another awesome weekend of football. But before we get to that, we have a pretty big game tonight where your Ohio State Buckeyes are taking on Alabama, the Crimson Tide, who come in as 9-point favorites in one of the most explosive offensive seasons we've ever seen. Mac Jones, Devonta Smith, Najee Harris, this team is going to be very difficult to stop. Now, I know you have a lot of topics on this, and I want to make it very clear that although you are an Ohio State fan, you are also the first person to say when things are not going well, when they are playing bad. So that's good. You give me specific knowledge on them because we talk about this stuff all the time. I do think that they deserve to be in the playoff because they were clearly one of the 4 best teams. I know you can say they didn't play like that against Northwestern, and this season it wasn't. If you just watch football, the talent that they have, there's not 4 teams better than that team. And they definitely made that known against Clemson. Them being 9-point underdogs is insane to me. I personally think they can win this game. I think they can hang with Alabama. They can score with anybody in the country. And if Fields plays the way that he did against Clemson, there's no reason why this should not be a competitive football game.
Yeah, I mean, I think Ohio State can definitely win this game. Just to lead off here, I think Alabama's going to win. I think it'll be, within 10 points. I have one major concern about this game, and then I've got some advantages for Ohio State, disadvantages. I think Devonta Smith against the Ohio State secondary is going to be a real difficult thing to stop. Now, when Ohio State beat Alabama last time, they didn't stop Amari Cooper. I think he had 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, but you're not going to stop Alabama. And Alabama's not going to stop Ohio State. So that's not the issue. It's not about shutting down a team. It's about being able to win the turnover battle. And it's so boring. It's such boring talk. But look at the Browns game last night. It's such boring talk. But really, win the turnover battle, eliminate the huge plays. I mean, that's just, like I said, that's what everybody says. But really, like I said last night, that game is basically 2 interceptions and a bad snap away from being a competitive game. So you're talking about 3 plays in a game can change the outcome. I think Alabama will probably win, but I thought Clemson would probably win last week too. So, Ryan Day is not somebody you ever want to bet against. As an X's and O's coach, I don't think there's anybody better in the game. Not necessarily, Nick Saban's the best CEO, runs the best program, but Ryan Day is just continued. I mean, I think they brought up Brett Venables' name last week more than Ryan Day's name. You're talking about a guy just absolutely embarrassed 2 years in a row, the best defensive coordinator in the sport. So, like I said, to lead off, I think Alabama probably has a slight edge in this game. And, I'd go with Alabama if I was a neutral guy. But, yeah, I'm pulling for my Buckeyes. I think they can do it.
Yeah, and the obvious battles, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, the Heisman finalist last year, one finalist this year, both projected first-round picks. If I'm kind of going a little off topic here, but I'm very curious as to what you see. We're both big Justin Fields guys.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's any way that there's how can I word this? Is there a game that he can play today where he's not like a top 5 NFL pick?
Yeah.
What does he have to do to either better his stock? Because we've had conversations. We both think he's closer to Trevor Lawrence than he is to Mac Jones or enter QB3 here. We think he's in that conversation. But do you think there's something that could happen that could play him down?
I think the knock on his game really is, and he might have been getting caught up in that whole, early in the season, he had more touchdowns than incompletions. So it seemed like while he had that going on, he's hanging on to the ball too long in the pocket and take the sack instead of throwing the ball away. You watch Tom Brady play the game. That guy will throw more intentional incompletions than anybody. He don't want to get hit, and he don't want to turn the ball over, and he don't want to give up negative plays. That's what a quarterback needs to be doing. Again, his legs are the X factor, though. That guy could easily have 150 yards rushing tonight if he gets out and scrambles. I don't know if there's a lot of talk about where he can go in the draft. I don't see the guy from BYU being that close to him. Definitely not the guy from North Dakota State. I think he's the second quarterback taken in this class, and a lot of Buckeyes fans were saying last week, well, if he has a bad game against Clemson, does he come back? No, he's gone.
Yeah,
he's going to the NFL. But again, leave it to the Jets to be the new Browns, and who knows who they take, right?
Yeah, that'll be very interesting. Now I know there's some stuff that you want to talk about recruiting wise and how many potential pros we're going to be watching tonight. So I'm kind of just going to give you the floor, and if you just want to dive right into this and everything that you've read up on, like there's a reason that people watch this game and not, Bowling Green and Cincinnati. Sorry, I don't mean to throw your alma mater under the bus, but like, listen,
Bowling Green had a guy in the playoffs yesterday too, so let's relax on that. Okay.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, but we're gonna watch 20 pros tonight, and it's something that it kind of gets thrown under the radar. Like, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, 20 pros. First of all, by all the modern recruiting metrics, this is probably the most talented two rosters that have ever played each other in college football. And we'll get into the specifics of that. Bud Elliott from 247 Sports made a list of the recruits. So basically in modern recruiting, there's a few main recruiting hubs, and these guys get it right more than they get it wrong. Okay. These guys, like I said, Stephon Diggs, you and I were talking about him in high school, and we knew what kind of special player he was in high school. They find these Percy Harvins and these Diggs and these Rashawn Garys and these guys in high school, and these guys are so physically gifted at the sport that if they put the work in, it's almost a sure thing. And Chase Young was another one of those guys. Like when they give you a 5-star rating in high school football, you're writing your ticket to the pros, and they're only giving away 30 and change of those ratings a year per high school. Now, the 4 stars are good too, and what teams like Ohio State are typically good at, what I hear from the Michigan fans is Ohio State takes 3 stars and turns them into 5 stars. That's like a Darren Lee, the linebacker that was recruited as a 3-star quarterback for Ohio State and ends up going in the first round of the NFL draft as a linebacker. That's the kind of stuff these good programs do. But forget about those diamonds in the rough for a second. This game tonight is featuring 2 teams with the most 4- and 5-star recruits. And what that means is out of their 85-man scholarship roster, they're if you add up their 4- and their 5-star guys, what percentage of the roster does that make? And because I'm going to tell you this one first, it might not seem as overwhelming, but out of all the college football playoff games, this is the most talented. Alabama has 83% of its roster, 83% of its players were recruited as a 4- or a 5-star prospect. Now, you laugh at that. Ohio State's got 80%. So it's 80 to 83% tonight. To put that into perspective, what some argue was the best college football team to ever play last year, LSU had 64%. 64% against Clemson, 60% last year. Those 2 teams you watched last year were far inferior talent-wise, at least from the recruiting standpoint, as the teams tonight. And I mean, how many players got drafted off that LSU team?
I was just going to say, that's insane to think about, because they had Burrow, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Patrick Queen, Justin. They had 4 first-rounders. I might even be missing one. Kendall Fulton, he went in the second round. Like, those teams were loaded with NFL talent, and to think that they're still, 25% of the roster. Now, again, I'm sure some of that is, incoming freshmen and sophomore that aren't really getting on the field. But like you said, the best CEO in the game. And I have a buddy who is an LSU fan, and we had a conversation about a month ago, and he's like, they were a great football team last year. There's no doubt about it. Like you said, probably the best college football team to play. Alabama is a great football program. They don't have these lull years like LSU had this year. And when he said that, I was like, that's like a really good point. Like you always say, some teams rebuild, some teams reload. And like I always thought of that. But when he's like, this is a good team, that's a good program, that like really opened my eyes. And the recruiting only, exemplifies that. That's what it is.
But and when we get through this, that's going to piggyback into our next part of the playoff.
Right.
And why expanding the playoff is so important. So just to go down the list, again, we're talking about this year's 83 and 80%, which makes Ohio State tied for the second most talented team to ever play in the college football championship. So last year, it was 77% at Alabama. I'm sorry, we did LSU. In 2018, it was 77% Alabama, 61% Clemson, okay? In 2017, it was 80% Alabama, 63% Georgia. 2016, 77 Alabama, 52 Clemson. 2015, 77, 47% Clemson, which blows your mind when you think about Clemson's teams they've had recently. And then finally, Ohio State, when they beat Oregon, that was the least talented game in playoff history. 68% Ohio State, 41% Oregon. So when you have a 41% team, you're talking about Oregon with a Heisman Trophy winner on the team, multiple NFL players that they developed, but they're not going to reload for the next year. They've got to rebuild to get back, and coaching changes and things aside. So what you're having is a significant talent gap. That's why college football is different than the NFL. Old time coaches, Bobby Bowden, who I'm not a huge fan of, but I liked his honesty back in the day. Like when, what's his name? Peter Warwick got arrested for shoplifting or something. And they're like, well, what would you do if one of your players got, in trouble? Oh, it depends how good he is, right? and they asked him what the key is to beat, winning football games. He said, having better players than the other team. That's why college football is so much different. So you put yourself in a position with better players on the team than the other team, you're going to win most of those games. You're going to get out coached. You're going to have teams with continuity that have played together. You're going to have better schemes. But talent-wise, why do we continue to see the same teams year in and year out in the college football playoff? I mean, I think the Big Ten has only put in Penn State, Michigan State, Wisconsin once, and then Ohio State every time. There's a reason that they're running away with the Big Ten. The game of recruiting has changed significantly, and that should concern people who really like the sport. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. If I'm a 5-star recruit, which I'm not, nowhere near it, why would I ever go to a school that's not constantly in the playoff? Like, of course, Alabama, they're always in. Why would I want to go to Auburn? I'll go to Alabama and make the playoff.
Right.
Why you're, and we've talked about this, like solely on recruiting, like 90% of the country is already eliminated from the playoff. They don't have a chance. There's no chance, which is why, as big of a football fan as there is, I'm not as interested in watching college football until last week because I really know what's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, unless you catch lightning in a bottle with some of these guys, and that always happens, and that's always a fun thing to do. I mean, Patrick Mahomes, like, if you weren't really paying attention, you didn't know who that guy was, even if you're a college football fan. He played for a mediocre school and put up crazy numbers, but that school always puts up crazy numbers. He's at Texas Tech, right?
Yeah, but that's the thing. You can catch lightning in a bottle, and you can be Cincinnati. You could be UCF a couple years ago, and you still have literally 0% chance of winning a national championship. And that is broken. The system is broken.
Right.
Yes. All, stupid. Making a playoff format to 4 teams, maybe this will shut people up for a little bit. It's what people wanted, and it's better. But I mean, like, this isn't it. I don't know what the delay is.
Well, we'll talk about. There's a couple of scary factors that are going to lead to continued recruiting dominance by schools. Okay, there's a very short list of blue blood programs, and that program has a history, a fan base, a national media reach, and those things you can't outcoach. Those things you can't create. They're already there, and those schools are USC, Texas, Ohio State, Alabama, Notre Dame, and Michigan. That's the top tier. That's the blue blood programs. Those are the jobs that if you work those jobs, there's not a better job to work. As much as these Gators fans hate to hear it, when Urban Meyer was at Florida, there were still better jobs to take than Florida. And those are the top schools. And now I don't know the formula for how the players are going to be able to make money off of their names, but Clemson doesn't have the national fan base that Michigan does. So when you're going to start talking about putting money in your pocket by how many hits you get on a website, how many retweets you get, what your reach is, I'm sorry, LSU is Louisiana. That's not a giant market. It's not. They're a great team. They're in a good conference, but that's a small market. Even the surrounding states, that's a small market. A Penn State has a bigger market. A Rutgers has a bigger market in as far as the networks are concerned. So, not that Rutgers is ever going to out-recruit LSU. Don't put words in my mouth.
You said it.
I'm just saying, when you talk about the money to be made, the reason the Big Ten added Maryland and Rutgers wasn't for a competitive thing. It was for a bigger TV market. It was for a bigger net to cast over viewership and money to be made. So again, that factor of being able to make money, and we don't know how it's going to play out, is not going to help the smaller schools. Now, recruiting has changed because these kids are smart and they know I don't have to go to my home school. If I'm from Texas, I don't have to go to Texas. I mean, Jackson Carman, the starting left tackle for Clemson, he's from Ohio. Like, that's unheard of years ago that a kid from Ohio would spurn the big time local program to go somewhere else. These kids don't care about staying home anymore. And that's what used to be competitive. California, USC used to get all the Southern California kids. Texas used to get all the Texas kids. Whichever Florida team was good at the time got all the Florida kids. Miami got all the inner city Miami kids. Ohio State got all the Ohio kids, and then Michigan took whatever they didn't want. Like, it's, Notre Dame gets all the Catholic school kids that want to go there. That game has completely changed. I mean, does it surprise you that Texas, which is the biggest, by the way, the biggest market team, the biggest fan base, the biggest athletic program, would it surprise you that Ohio State's got more 5-star recruits out of the state of Texas in the last 5 years than Texas has?
Well, unfortunately, no, it doesn't surprise me because Texas, they don't win anything. So if these kids that are now 19, 20 years old, they don't know Vince Young's Texas. They don't know that team. Like, that doesn't come to their head. They see the playoff last year, 2 years ago, whatever it may be. They're like, yeah, I want to go play at Ohio State.
Right.
I think the whole thing is broken. Now, you have come up with this playoff format that you've been talking to me about specifically for years, and it seems to have surfaced. I don't know. I didn't leak your information, I promise. But if you want to dive in, you want 8 teams, and what exactly is your setup?
8 teams in the playoff makes it really, a complete playoff. And what I say by that is every team in the country, even in the group of 5 teams, they have a shot at winning the national championship. I don't think it's fair that if you suit up at Eastern Michigan, you can win every game by 100 points. Zero chance that you're going to win the national championship right now. You will not be considered one of the top 4 teams in the country. So I think what you do is you make 8 teams, and it's a pretty simple format. I think you make all the Power 5 conferences. Their conference champion is an automatic bid, regardless of record. If you win the conference, you're in the playoff. So after that, you take the highest ranked group of 5 team. They get an automatic bid too. That's 6 teams. Then you take 2 at-large teams. Okay, that doesn't necessarily. Go ahead.
Well, go ahead. We have a graphic on what it would have looked like this year. You sent over to us, so this way people watching can visually see it and not just try and follow along in their head.
Okay, I think the beauty of this would be top 4 teams get a home game for the first round of the playoffs. Then you fill the big bowls in for the rest of it as usual. But I mean, how great would this be to get to play home games for a playoff? So what you have here is you have Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Oklahoma, and Oregon. Those are the conference champions. Okay, the only team in the country that had any gripe this year was Texas A&M about not getting into the playoff, but their gripe was misplaced. Their gripe should not have been Ohio State doesn't belong. Their gripe should have been Notre Dame had their shot and lost their conference championship game. Texas A&M should have been saying we never got a chance to get into our conference championship game because the number 1 team in the country is in our division of our conference. So again, for people who don't remember, Texas A&M lost to Alabama. Wasn't a very close game, but they lost to Alabama earlier in the season. So Alabama got to play in the SEC championship game. Texas A&M did not get to play in the SEC championship game. So Texas A&M and Texas A&M and Notre Dame, in my model, would have been your 2 at-large teams. So you're looking at your conference championships, and then you look at, okay, so who was left out here, and how fair is it that they were left out? And the brilliant thing is those 5 Power 5 conference championship games are essentially playoff games, because if you make it to your conference championship game and you win football games, you win the national championship regardless of record. So Iowa State, who was ranked 6th in the final college football playoff rankings, they were left out, but they lost in the Big 12 championship game. So they had their shot under my model. They had their shot to get in. And then Florida, they lost the SEC championship game. So what you've done is you've actually made an 18 playoff, more like a 13-team playoff, because you're adding 5 teams that essentially control their own destiny in the conference championship games. So let's look at, do you have last year's graphic?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is last year's graphic. This is how it stacked up. So you had LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, Oklahoma. They all won their conference championships games. And then Oregon won their conference championship games. So those are the 5 conference champs that got in, okay? Memphis, they would have gotten in. And before we're finished, I'm going to tell you one more tweak I want to make to my playoff format. And then you have Georgia would have got in, and Baylor would have got in. Those were the next rankings. And then you look at, okay, who was left out? You're talking about a 10-3 Wisconsin team. They lost in the Big Ten championship game, so they had their chance. And again, Florida was in the conference championship game and lost again. So what you're doing when you're looking at the 4-team playoff is year in and year out, you're looking at how that number 5 team got screwed. And in these last 2 years, the teams who could say that they got screwed and the first teams left out, they had their shot. So it wasn't unfair. They just didn't win when they needed to get in.
Yeah, I mean, I agree wholeheartedly. I don't know what's the con to this. Like, why is this not a good idea? Why hasn't this been talked about even more?
Well, they talk about player safety, playing an extra game. Well, then
take a open schedule week 4 when you're playing, Texas State. Like, get rid of that game.
Well, here's the brilliant thing about that too. This new format doesn't penalize out of conference losses, really, right? So let's say you're in Ohio State. Your 3 non-conference games, schedule Alabama, USC, and Texas, right?
Yeah.
Go 0-3. What happens?
Nothing.
Go win the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Right? Or schedule those games and somehow you win all 3 of them, but Michigan knocks you off and you don't even make your conference championship game. Your resume is going to put you in one of those 2 at-large teams with those wins. So really, you're not penalizing the losses as much because just go win your conference.
Yeah, and even just think of the TV money that's out there. Why would you not want to do this?
Right. It's wild. It's wild. And, it's coming. And Urban Meyer, well, I didn't think we're going to have time to talk about his coaching stuff, but Urban Meyer was the one who said, because of recruiting, we have to expand this because these same teams are in the playoffs every year. Oklahoma's always talked about too, and they're an exciting team to watch. They're putting guys in the pros. I also did, just for argument's sake,
this is what I want to see.
Yeah, this is 2017, and if you don't remember, this is the year UCF is the self-declared national champs, and but it's very interesting. Okay, so again, you take this year, the college football committee screwed it up now, because before the conference. So one of the big criteria for making the playoff is one of the major criteria they have is conference championships are very meaningful. So before the playoff or the conference championship games, the playoff committee was on TV saying Alabama and Ohio State are neck and neck. That's what they said. They had Alabama at 4, Ohio State at 5. Ohio State went and demolished Wisconsin in the Big Ten championship game and met that giant criteria they had, and then they took Alabama. So Alabama had an off week. Ohio State went and achieved what they considered a major criteria, and then they still kept Ohio State out. But no big deal. Well, I mean, that's kind of a homer talking, but I'm just saying strictly from the criteria you establish and the things you're saying, because by that model, you had if Ohio State won their conference championship game and still didn't get in, well, then you're wrong. You had Alabama significantly above Ohio State, and that's fine, but don't say they're neck and neck, and now this team did something major, and now they're not neck and neck, But anyways, so this model has Ohio State winning their conference. This is the year Georgia beat Alabama in the conference championship. Oklahoma won, Clemson won, and USC won the Pac-12. Now you put UCF in there; they're the auto bid, and then Wisconsin and Alabama are your 2 at-large teams. They're the ones who are going to get into this playoff. Who gets left out? Penn State was 10-2. They didn't make the conference championship game, and they were number 9 in the latest AP poll, so they weren't even really considered a top 8 team, anyways. And then Auburn got left out. And the interesting thing about Auburn is, and this is what drives me nuts about SEC homers, is it seems like every year Auburn gets this preseason ranking around number 10, and they always finish with 3 or 4 losses. But everybody who loses to Auburn, that's a good loss because it's a good team. And everybody who beats Auburn, that's a good win because it's Auburn. They got beat by UCF pretty good in the bowl game. So Auburn beat Alabama that year. Alabama is your national champ that year, and UCF beat Auburn handedly that year, which on paper basically says UCF could have played with anybody that year.
And they absolutely could have. They should have had a chance. I think it is stupid that they're crowning themselves national champions. I lived in Orlando for about a year and a half, had a good time out there. It's about as close to a university as I've been involved with.
Okay.
Although the Connecticut School of Broadcasting is forever undefeated on football, so we have that going for us. But it sucks that a team that can, like you said, lightning in a bottle and still have 0 shot at a national championship. It's not fair. It's just not fair.
And I'd actually like to tweak my format. And this is going to be the most controversial point. I think the group of 5 team should be put in no shorter than an automatic 6. That should be the lowest they get to go in as the seed. Because to pacify for the sense of fairness, putting in the group of 5 team to go to number 1 every year and be the 8 seed and go play at number 1, that seems like you're stacking the deck. But if you made them as a minimum 6 seed, at least they get a chance to play a competitive game and show what they can do. So that's the model I think is coming. And when you do that, you create chances for more teams to get exposure. And the more teams that get exposure, you're going to start getting recruits that are going to want to go to those schools. And
exactly,
as an Ohio State fan, it's awesome to see Ohio State win every year. But I'll be honest, I mean, from a fan standpoint, I like beating an undefeated Michigan much better than I like beating a crappy Michigan. Right. I love it when Michigan actually thinks they're going to win the game and doesn't win, rather than knowing they're just coming in to lose.
Right. What's the streak? How many years in a row has it been?
I think Ohio State's, if you don't factor in the vacated season for the stupid whatever BS tattoo thing, Ohio State's 18 of 19, I think.
Oh my God. Do you remember the last loss?
Yeah, it was Braxton Miller. It was Luke Fickell's year as the interim coach before Urban Meyer. And Braxton Miller had a chance to win it. And I remember this is back when I had regular like Bright House cable or something. I had my wife DVR it, and she did not extend the game. So
I remember
so
this.
I actually was like, I hope Ohio State loses this game, because if they win and I don't have it recorded to watch, I'm going to be angry.
Yeah, I actually do remember that story. Hey man, I really appreciate you coming on. This was good to get those first couple minute jitters out, but we'll definitely have to do this again.
Yeah, I mean, this is, like I said, this is our weekly phone conversation that we have. It's funny, but like I said, please have me back. I'd love to do the. We'll probably need 2 hours to go over GOAT versus best player of all time.
Yeah,
but I'm excited. I really appreciate the invite. I'm flattered. For all you who don't know, I was Eric's economics teacher in high school, and then we've been best friends for more than a decade since then. So excited for you. Excited to see what you got coming up here, and good luck with everything.
All right, man. Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So I was going to initially lead the show with this rant, but I was a little emotional. I was unsure what I wanted to say. I've collected some thoughts before we went on the air. There's some breaking news in the NFL where the Philadelphia Eagles fired their head coach, Doug Peterson. I have many, many thoughts on this, but I'm going to try and keep this to like 2 or 3 minutes. And if it somehow happens to go viral, I won't be shocked. This team is in complete freaking shambles. Ever since they won the damn Super Bowl, this team has been a mess. They don't know who's the quarterback. They hate Carson Wentz, but they love Carson Wentz. But they draft another damn quarterback in the second round. Now they fired their head coach. I should have looked this up. What is the quickest a head coach has gotten fired after winning a Super Bowl? I would love to know, because this is in that conversation. It's been 3 freaking years. We were just on Broad Street celebrating a damn Super Bowl. We were at a parade. We had the quarterback, we had the coach, we had the team, we had everything. What the hell happened? How on earth could you go in 3 years from saying you're going to win multiple Super Bowls? You're going to do this again and again and again. You can have injuries. You can have bad games. You can have bad stretches. That's what happened to Carson Wentz this year. The team was bad. The team was hurt. You can't win with this. What he did at the end of last year to win that division, throwing to who knows who, it's unbelievable how quickly the organization has turned their back on this guy. Drafting Jalen Hurts, who I like, it's just unjustifiable. It makes no sense. It will continue to make less and less sense with each move they make. I said this from the beginning. If Jalen Hurts comes in, has a losing record, doesn't show that he's the guy, then what? Well, guess what? That's what happened. Now what? Now they're going to have a new head coach. They're picking 6th in the draft. What is the plan? They don't have one. And this offseason is going to be one that I don't want to witness. I don't know how this team can go into 2021 and be like, yep, we did all of the right things this offseason. Let's go 2021. I'm going to keep it that simple and short, and I didn't cuss. Thank goodness. I just want to say thank you for everybody for tuning in. I did read every comment as they were coming in. That was pretty dope. Thank you, Backroads Apparel. I saw those comments. All the celebration. Brittany, Alexa, thank you for tuning in. This was cool. I kept it within an hour. That was awesome. I stuttered all the time. I was very nervous. yeah, I don't know. Mama, we did it. Tune in next week. See you guys.